Welcome to another episode of the Shortsighted podcast. I know it's been a minute. I've been preoccupied with other stuff. Today we're talking to Dan, which I couldn't miss out on because Dan started out with minus 5.25 in the more dramatic eye. In 2020, he found the amazingness of endmyopia. And now, brace yourselves, he's at minus 1.5 diopters in both eyes. Wow. Plays a lot of soccer, lives in New York, is an interesting dude, seemed only very mildly distracted. It's an audio-only podcast. It's relatively short. I think it's interesting because he asked me a bunch of questions. So if you've made rapid improvements or if you're wishing for rapid improvements, and if you want to know all the things that might go wrong with you getting greedy with improvements, I recommend this episode. It is a good episode. And I have more scheduled for real this time, a few months at least. So if you're not subscribed in your favorite podcasting app, then do subscribe. And here's Dan.
Like you go to the eye doctor, they give a prescription, you see very well, great. And after 6 months, you start to see blurry again. It's like, well, what's going on, So it kept increasing, and I knew I wanted to do something about it. I knew some kind of method existed. If it worked, didn't work, I was not sure. But then last year when there was COVID and all the routine was like upside down, I was like, okay, this is the time to do it. And that's when I did it. But I had the last prescription that I told you. I had it in November 2019. And I saw great. And after 6 months, I started to see a little bit blurry already. I was like, wow, what the hell? This is a scam. I'm tired of it. And
Wait, let's totally skip ahead. Where are you at currently with glasses, diopter?
What, normalized or
Normalized, yeah.
1.5, 1.5.
And yes, start right.
But I push it hard. On the left one, it's not really 1.5. It would be more like -2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you do on like eye chart and otherwise with a 1.5?
What's that?
Eye chart? Like what do you measure with the 1.5?
If I look on the eye chart with both eyes, I can see 20/25 on the good days. Otherwise, the line up 20/35 or something. I don't know.
That's a fairly dramatic drop.
Yeah. I used your method. I still do, but a few months ago, I decided to drop the glasses completely and just use them when I really need, like driving and all that. And I felt it help. I'm not sure. I try to use peripheral vision, and even when I drive, I constantly do the active focus that you say. Always, like I look at the license plates automatically. I don't even need to think. I look at the license plates of the cars in front of me, and that's all I do when I drive.
Nice. I'm not commenting on any driving. Please, everybody use whatever is appropriate for driving. How much time do you in general spend outside or not in front of screens on an average day? Like how many hours do you get?
Outside, outdoor?
Or just generally distance vision-ish?
On the weekends, a good few hours. And during the week, it depends on the days. Sometimes couple hours, sometimes less. But the more I spend outside looking far with daylight, with like sun, I know it helps.
Any interesting hobbies or activities that help with the distance bit?
Soccer.
Ha, that counts. How does that work? Is it like I'm terrible at soccer. I have 3 left feet, I think. I imagine. So you play with like people around there? How do you find soccer to play recreation?
Yeah, I have a group of friends and we have a WhatsApp group, and we meet twice a week, and we meet and we play. So one time is indoor at night, and the other time it's outdoor. On the outdoor, I don't wear any contacts, nothing. I just normal glasses, nothing. And I active focus all the time. I look at the players, I look at the jerseys, I look at everything. But I can see, I can play fine, But indoor, it's still kind of hard. because it's darker. So my main problem now is to recognize people's faces, especially when I'm indoor, like indoor inside the house or whatever. At distance, it's hard for me to recognize people's faces. I don't know if that's normal. You tell me.
It is normal. I mean, that one of the hardest things is to recognize people's faces. Fine detail, always in motion. That's definitely the most challenging bit. Yeah, and then especially if the lighting is a little adverse, like if you don't have good natural daylight, that's definitely not necessarily a bad thing if it's only occasional. There's something about not always having great vision, sometimes having easier, better vision, and sometimes not. There's something about that wave that is pretty beneficial if you have a good balance.
It reassures me when you say that the hardest to recognize people's faces, because it's still hard for me to recognize people's faces indoor. Outdoor, it's getting a little better, but it's still hard.
It's it's the most difficult thing for sure.
Yeah, really.
I used to
But
love that, by
now,
the way.
what?
That used to be my favorite thing. I would take
What?
off my glasses. I can't recognize people's faces. I imagine they're all smiling and happy. Oh.
But it kind of went fast. I mean, that whole process, I don't know, I'm negative 1.5, normalized. Again, it's not my real prescription, but it kind of went fast. Even sometimes without the glasses, on the good days, I can see the line 35-20 without the glasses, but it's hard on the very good days.
Super important. The main thing with fast reduction is if you get double vision, kind of a directional blur or ghosting, where it's not a blur, but if you really pay attention, is the image doesn't line up. An easy way to tell. Yeah, an easy way to tell in the dark if you have one of those old school digital alarm clocks, and there's like a ghost copy of the whole time that's kind of floating off from the main one.
Right.
More noticeable in the dark. If a similar thing happens during the day where there's a misaligned image, I generally recommend not making more reductions. The more persistent is, because what happens is as far as we understand, there's always a fair bit of speculation. The physical biology of the eye is changing as your vision is improving, and the signal is never perfect from the single eye and not from both eyes. And your visual cortex has the interesting job of sorting out all the imperfections and showing you an image that looks perfect, but the signal isn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's working it out. And a little bit of that, it'll sort out in a few months, not a big deal. But when you keep adding to it and it never gets a chance to go, okay, I'm fixing this, then ultimately you end up with more of it, and it takes proportionally longer to resolve than if you just stick with like if it's working now with a minus 1.5 and it's not persistent and doesn't align and just unresolvable, then it's fine, right? But if it's already borderline, then you make another reduction and then there's more of it, and then somehow the brain just gets stuck. You know what I mean?
Right. So you wouldn't recommend more reduction, just I'm waiting to be like to see the two lines with my left eye, 35-20, you know, like 40-20 and 35-20 or whatever. And once I can see those two lines, then I'll reduce again. But so far, with my left eye, I'm still way behind for some reason. It doesn't go as fast as the right eye. I don't know why.
Normal there, and usually it's ocular dominance related, usually not all the time, but in general there's always one eye that improves faster than the other, especially when you're pushing it like you are. You'll notice that, and you always want to wait for both eyes to be caught up, right? Because the faster eye being at a certain point doesn't mean anything till both eyes are there. And it is not uncommon to get fast progress if you are not a total phone addict And if you have a cool hobby like playing soccer, it makes a big difference. But then still, there's just a point where the biology needs to catch up, right? And maybe you can
Yeah.
get away with it, and some people can. And I'm just being conservative because I don't want you to go, ugh, right? Like you just reach a final point where just sometimes, not always, where just nothing quite works. You know what I mean? Like you reduce too much too fast, and eventually your brain just goes, I cannot keep up with this. And
And then
then
what happens?
people are either stuck kind of at that level, or
Yeah.
they go back up and kind of not start over from the beginning, but get realistic to where they need to be with the diopters. And then the second time around, it's a more aware and slower process.
Do you think it's better to do that? I don't
No,
know.
I think it's super difficult. The challenge is because this is your first time doing it, you don't
Yeah.
have the experience to relate it to something, right? So the main thing to pay attention to is double vision. You know, like if there is some of that where you're not actually seeing blur, if you were to look at the same thing, unlike active focus blink, focus resets, right? Like if you just look at a thing and see if it's better if it's straight lines or if it's text, any distance, doesn't matter. That seems blurry, but if you notice that it's actually not blurry, it's just multiple images, either two or multiple. And if you just look at it kind of relaxed and just keep looking at it, if you see parts of that image trying to line up or moving around, that's your brain trying to sort out the imperfections in the alignment of the image.
It happens to me a lot.
Yeah. So see, that is your brain is still the biology is adjusted, your brain hasn't. Right. So your eyes already like, okay, there's a separate mechanism in the eye that controls axial length and a bunch of stuff. That's already done its job, but now the signal's different, right? Like the signal that comes from the eye to the brain is not what it was because the eye physically may have changed to some degree.
So the brain didn't adapt yet, you say?
Not yet. It takes it longer, right? Because it's not something that happens this quickly normally, right? So it takes a while for your brain to go, okay, what's this? And it'll sort it out. But that's why I usually say take 3 to 4 months at least between making reductions, because while a reduction may already work fine 3 weeks from now, it takes your brain a while to sort that out, what you're experiencing now, where it's like, the key way to tell is just looking at something without changing anything, not blinking on purpose, not moving around, just seeing parts of the image change by itself. That's your brain trying to sort out how to line it up. While that's happening, it's best to not make changes to the focal plane, just to give your brain a chance to figure out consistently what it is.
Right.
You know, because now if you change focal planes again, your brain's kind of like, well, I really don't know what's going on because yesterday I was trying to line this up and now it's different again. Right. So
right. I see. I have much less double vision when I wear the glasses, the negative 1.5. But without my glasses, when I look at a sign or whatever, then I get some double vision. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fine. There's no issue. I just prefer, there's that point of you get away with a bunch of fast reductions. You have a good hobby. It's working for you. Awesome. Right. Like I don't recommend this because it's much more difficult to tell a large group of people how to pull this off. And I'm going to get a lot more annoyed emails from people that have high hopes and then it doesn't work out. So slow reduction, a diopter a year works for everybody, right? Like that's gives your brain plenty of time to catch up. It's nice and habit building, right? It kind of smooths out the many different lifestyles people have. You can get away with doing what you're doing to a point, right? And then people get greedy. They're like, I'm so close. I'm gonna get to 2020, right? And there's just a point where you have to go, don't have to, but where you're better off going, okay, this is awesome. I love where this is at. And then give it some time and make sure that double vision with the glasses is much better than it was 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago.
Right. I see. Now, if I see the Snellen chart, but with active focus, so this is what we measure, right? For the normalized glasses, or we have to measure without doing any active focus?
No, you can do it with active focus. The thing is, so the eye chart is a nice measuring point since it's a static, not many variables thing, right?
Right.
But that static acuity, that how clearly you see in consistent lighting in a familiar space is pretty indicative, but it's not the same as you playing soccer, running around, being in motion, people's facial expressions, driving a car. That vision where things are happening is not going to be the same. It's going to be indicative and it's going to be related, right? Like there's a relationship between how you are doing at 2040 and how you're doing at 2030, but it's not, the eye chart is not the ultimate measurement. The ultimate measurement is if you can run playing soccer and know if the guy is frowning or smiling.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a harder thing to relate. So I use eye chart because everybody's familiar with it. And then in general, you're meant to kind of relate those two experiences. Does that make sense?
Right. I see.
Whereabouts are
do you
you
think
at in the
what?
world? Whereabouts are you at in the world?
What was that?
Where are you at in the world?
What do you mean?
Like, where are you at? Is it Europe, US, somewhere else?
No, I'm in New York.
Oh, New York.
New York, yeah.
You have an interesting accent.
You in? Oh yeah, I have a French accent. I'm French originally.
Oh, in New York. New York. So you can play soccer now? Is the craziness over with the thing?
It's over, but it's coming back. What about you in Bangkok? You're from Bangkok originally?
No, I'm a resident of Bangkok because of the current craziness. I don't know where else to go.
Really?
And it was fine here. It was fine here for the longest time. With the rest of the world, the news sounded terrible and everything here was fine. And now it stopped being fine.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Germany, actually.
Oh, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. But I don't want to go right now because I'm only seeing the news, but it sounds like it's less fun to be in those places.
Right. I see.
So they let you play soccer though. Is it just public venues that are being affected?
What do you mean public venues?
They let people meet and do sports.
No, it's like indoor. You have to reserve. You have to pay. And for the outdoor, it's a field. We have a permit, so we can play. Like we have a spot during the week, one spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
I get so many people that are struggling with, especially if you're an adult. It seems like if you're an adult and you're already fallen into the media addiction hole, Netflix and on-demand everything, they struggle with finding this sort of hobby and people to participate.
Yeah. No, it's important. Also, you talk often about talking about all those addictions. You said smartphones are very bad for the eyes. Maybe I found something good. Some people they need to use a lot WhatsApp. I put WhatsApp on my computer, so it's not as bad as just using it on your phone. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. How much do you use the phone?
I'm trying as less as possible. I don't know how much. It says 3 hours every day, but it's not really 3 hours because I put YouTube for a couple hours. I put Waze for an hour. You know what I mean? Like really when I'm on the phone, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes a day. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing I'm curious about, so you found Endmyopia. What is the initial experience like? Because I'm not trying to be very confidence inspiring, and the whole thing I know is kind of a big mess of a ton of content, and I'm just curious what that looks like when you first arrive. Like, how do you go from this is your first exposure to I think this makes sense?
What do you mean? Like your method?
Yeah.
When did I find out it makes sense?
No, I mean, like when you first saw it, like what was your thoughts about it? This is just me being curious.
I'm not sure I understood the question, but I'll answer. I used on all the pair of glasses with like less strong prescription, like I think it was like negative 3.5, negative 475. And I tried to active focus. I didn't know what it was. And I tried and I tried and I looked at the stop sign for my home and I looked and I looked. And at some point, I don't know, I had a clear flash for like a fraction of a second and my eyes like burnt. I don't know. It was very painful. And I was like, wait, I was able to see it like clear for like a fraction of a second. There's something here. What, did I answer the question or that's not?
Yeah, that's an interesting. So you tried a thing, had an experience. How does okay? That's the other thing. How is that now? Like emotionally speaking, your relationship with the whole glasses thing, being at minus 1.5 versus where you're at, does that feel different? Does it make you think about things? Does it change your relationship with eyes and glasses and yourself?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, it's a big scam, I think, like you say, those doctors, whatever. And yeah, I don't know. I feel kind of free. I wake up in the morning, no glasses, no nothing. I don't know. It's great. It's great. I love it. I'm not 100% far from that, but I don't need to wear the glasses all the time now anymore. So it's a big improvement. First of all, before, not only I was not seeing without glasses, I had like a lot of headache. My eyes like were like hurting and all that after a couple of seconds. I needed to have them all the time or need to have my contacts and no more, you know? So it's great. I'm still afraid, like I'm wondering, is this risky for the retina, all this active focus and all that? Because I don't know. What do you know? I mean, what do you think? You're the expert.
I wish I was an expert at anything. Long time, like almost 20 years, I've never heard of side effects. The only side effect that comes up is the double vision thing. Literally, and there's people that had retinal detachment before they did endmyopia. There's people with extremely high myopia. So there's a lot of cases that are not ideal. And I don't know, right? Because I rely on people's feedback. From what I experienced, and of course, this is like a fringe biohacking level type of thing, I have not heard of any negative consequences of basically all you're doing is reducing your eye strain, right? And gradually reducing your dependence on lenses while having good vision. So it seems safe to me. It seems safe to me. I've not heard anybody telling me that they had negative consequences.
Wow. Okay. Do you think I will always have to do active focus, or at some point you don't need to do anymore? Like your eyes are so strong that you don't need to do.
I think it's sort of like you decided to become a runner and you stopped eating pizza and got off the couch. If you get back on the couch eating pizza, the biology will readjust. So
you active focus all the time, for example?
Yeah, for sure. But not like, it's not something that I notice or recognize. But if I'm riding a motorbike at night through the city, I know that I'm challenging myself more than during the daytime, for example. Right.
But is that the case for somebody who has never been nearsighted?
I think so. I went through a period where I asked lots of people who never wore glasses, like we would go to Starbucks. We had a regular, and I'm not a Starbucks fan, but it was dark, and it had the menu overhead, and I'd make people read the menu, and first glance, can you read it? No was a pretty common answer. And then I go, okay, so how do you read it? And what they describe is active focus. From my very non-scientific basis, it seems that most people who have never worn glasses use it without realizing what it is. I hear lots of typing.
I didn't know that.
No worries. This is good. I mean, this is, I think, a good amount of time anyway, and giving people a little bit of a glimpse into your experience. So I super appreciate you sharing it, Dan.
Sure, no problem. I've just one question. Do you think it's better to use like peripheral vision and do active focus at the same time, or we cannot do both at the same time?
I think it's challenging to do both at the same time. What works, or what I like, and I don't really talk about peripheral vision that much, is first kind of like almost meditation go, be aware of your peripheral vision, and then do active focus. I think once you do active focus, you're kind of switching to central focus in your head. But if you start out with peripheral vision awareness, it's a good idea.
Why don't you talk about peripheral vision much?
It comes up in the Back to 2020 program, but for some reason, it's in some random articles, and I should cover it a little bit more. It seems like there's lots of topics I don't cover enough. I mean, yeah, it's a good one. I'll bring it up.
And last question, do you know how much time left I have?
Till you die? 2 years.
No, like the 2020.
The next
it's
version
taking
of it.
longer and longer and longer. I mean, it's been pretty fast until now, but I feel in the last 2 pair of glasses, it's getting long.
Yeah.
It's been 4 months. I'm with negative 1.5. 4 months already.
So the diopter year thing is kind of hard to cheat on some level, right? Like, I think from here to you not needing any glasses 2020, I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 2 years.
Another 2 years?
I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm not saying that's a definitive, like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know the future. Like, you might be there in 6 months, you might be there in 3 years.
Right.
And it's a gradual thing, because eventually you go from minus 1.5 to maybe minus 1.25 or minus 1. And then from there, you just use those and don't wear glasses. Like, that's kind of the ideal last step. And then how much you don't wear glasses is a gradual change, right? Like, when you need them, you wear them. When you don't need them, you don't wear them. And the amount of time you don't need them gradually increases, but not steadily, right? Like, you find yourself using them a lot, and then you find yourself not using them a lot, and it's kind of up and down till eventually you don't need them. If I were to guess, I would say it's kind of a 2-year-ish thing, but maybe 6 months from now, you're closer to that. Maybe you're having moments where you don't need them, right? Like, you make another reduction, you're not really paying attention to me in the double vision, you're getting away with it. I don't recommend it. Then you start kind of, some days it's sunny, you go for a walk, you don't have your glasses on, you're surprised how well that works. After half an hour, your head kind of goes, I don't love it anymore. You put your glasses back on, that kind of thing, right? Like, you may have a breakthrough experience months from now, but till that's really consistent may take a while.
How long did it take for you?
Forever.
What do you mean?
I didn't know what I was doing, right? At the time, there was I didn't even know if I would get to 2020, because at that minus 1 point something range, I was just stuck. I wore those for years. Like, it just seemed from there, I couldn't make any headway, because if I reduced to below minus 1 diopter, it just wasn't working. And wearing those, I couldn't get a consistent. Sometimes I didn't need them. A lot of times I did need them, and that seemed to never change. So I was off and on again, this was almost 20 years ago. I was off and on with this project. This wasn't a full-time thing. And I was happy with it, right? Like I could see the screen without glasses. I could find my glasses. I could get away with not wearing them. And I kind of assumed that's just where it ended. So I kind of accepted load up the glasses for a long period of time.
Very cool. Very cool. I have just one question, then I let you go. I just wanted to know, sometimes when I look at the chart and I see well with the left eye, that's weak. Then when I look at with both eyes, it's double vision. Is that normal?
Yeah. It's your brain trying
Why?
to sort it out. We're guessing, right? Because we can't look at what's changing in the biology, but largely it's your vision, you're pushing your vision. Like this is, you're seeing, but you're challenging yourself. You're using a lot of active focus. The biology is in the process of change, and your visual cortex is getting information that is different from what it was the last, 30 years of your life.
Right.
And the visual signal changes, your brain goes, what is going on with this? So totally normal. And also a reason I always say take it easy with focal plane changes, because for anything that you change, your brain has to catch up with figuring out how that signal needs to be adjusted and given to you, right, as a feedback.
Uh-huh.
You're fine. You're on the right track. Just don't. You got away with an amazing improvement. Give the biology time. That would be my suggestion.
Uh-huh. People don't go that fast. Usually it doesn't go that fast.
Some people do, but then they don't recognize when they're overdoing it, right? What I keep talking about, the double vision thing, has to be respected, right? It has to clear up. If you keep making changes past that, at some point you end up having to go back and revisit some previous doctors.
I get it. Okay, very, very cool.
So
very cool.
I appreciate it. I'm going to put you in my calendar or remind me how things are going. Like if you're using glasses less, I'd love to follow up.
You can put me a reminder. You send me an email about how is it going, and I'll answer. And if you want me to share the experience again, I mean, sure. If you want me to put a review, anything, I mean, you've been great, really.
This works.
It's unbelievable, all that stuff that you found out.
Well, Dan, I know it's super late there, so thanks so much for spending some time. I super much appreciate it, and I hope that it's a smooth sailing journey for the rest of the remaining diopter.
Thank you.
Meow, 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 meow.